This is Gerald van Was. I had a few words with the combination of the letters P and R explained in my previous video. This series of videos is meant to show the distinctive features of every letter and how they can combine and how they can also show you how much they also are meaningful. And they are meaningful because they follow certain rules of also it is like a balanced system that is followed as a kind of structure, a structure that is followed also by our orientation upon these objects that we name with certain letters. So let's go and have a little bit more attention to another word with P and R in the beginning, but that has the combination of N and T. And N and T is interesting because in my system there are three levels of orientation: an orientation in space, in time, or in time space or context that gives you a different viewpoint on your orientations. An orientation on a steady place, as an orientation in a timed or changing place in a time context, or really a larger context that gives you the opportunity to make a distinction that have a relative state in time and space. But there are three levels there, and the letter T and the letter N, they are comparable because they are both on the first level of each sort of orientation, and I'll describe you a little bit better the differences, how you understand what kind of orientation we use by using these letters. And I will use, of course, the word print for it, and in the end I will also add imprint. And what I wanted to say is, in my scheme you have the readout of all the letters in a numerical order, a numerical order which was also described as the Pythagorean order of letters. And I have worked that out further, that you can also associate them with geometrical and other orientations, so that you can build it up in a balance between each other, and so that you can find out how systematic this really is. And the first level on each of the three levels of what you can see are about starting points. You have then starting points in space, or starting points in a time context, but also still from the first level of spatial orientation, because the first thing we do is we try to orientate ourselves in space. That's the first thing we do. So both T and N start from the same level, from the same orientation, and they can be compared, but they are quite different, and I will explain you how they are different. So it's both are about starting points with a certain form of materialization. In T, in just one point in space, and in actually also 2 points in a time context. But I will explain you further how you can explain them, how you can understand them, how you can have a puzzle with them so that you can remember them well, but also how we can remember the really essence of them without that puzzle piece that we associate from there to remember it very easily. And also the horizontal, vertical, and diagonal are also there associated in the background, as well as in T as in N. They are on that level of the vertical association there. So simplified, if you really want to use the T idea or the N idea, T is about points. All the orientations in space are about points, so that also A, T, and K are points. T is that point that you notice somewhere in the vertical sense, and that's the simplified puzzle piece, let's say, where you can recognize where a T is associated. The N, like all the letters that are related in that green zone with timing, I always show them not as points but as directions, because they show you the changes, the directions, how you follow up the directions. And also there the vertical is has a different puzzle piece so that you can remember it well. It's that direction vertical. So even if you can use the same point there, they mean something else. So just the puzzle piece alone is not enough. You really have to understand what is the thing that we distinct there. And I will give you an example that you can recognize where the T is recognized and where the N is recognized without using even that puzzle piece, or with using that puzzle piece. It doesn't matter. And just imagine that we have a form like this, and also within this form we should be able to recognize differences in the formation that is going on here, in these lines that are there. We should be able to recognize the T positions and the N positions without even using these helping tools. But I will use them, of course, as well to make you realize what we are talking about. For the T, it will be almost obvious and very practical to say, like, okay, we use them at the points. That's the T, the points. Mostly then indeed somewhere in the vertical sense, where we distinct the forms or the functions. That's what the T is about. The N will focus also on differences in form. It's also about that. But there we more take out something that looks different, that has already a different focus, that can be that has a distinction actually in forms, not just because of the lines, but also in the two-dimensional frame, as a focus that I can take out. It's a different content. That's the square there shows a difference. That's that space that is different. So I use the letter N there. I don't need that arrow, but it's that idea of, oh, I notice a difference, is that idea of, oh, I take out something in a different in a different context already, is already a first association that you can have there. It's within the same area, but I'll see already that, okay, here is a difference, and the difference is enough to see it as a different object in a two-dimensional scale. In a way you say, like, okay, I take this out, I see it as something different, I take out the content. That's why you could use the arrow. The danger is, of course, if I take it out of the original context, then I am already making a new context. I give it an extra context, and I'm already in the area of the extra letters or the higher order. And I often described the order of tree like a plant. You have a basics of a foundation of starting points, and you have the plant which grows, and at the end you have the top layer. This is one form that you can have, but these three layers can also bring you from, okay, I have the area where I am, I'm going out of the area, and this is really already out of the area. Here I take it out of the area into a different context. When I take something out and I will breach the normal space and say, okay, I'm going somewhere else, that is the also taking out. But that's the taking out on the next level, the level of the material that is growing out, the letter E, to use it at some other, into another direction, that you're going to use it somewhere else. and when it's really taken out of context, and also at the border already from where I reach an outer border, then I have the letter P. You see, if you don't associate the letters correctly, you will associate different letters from it. But the T, I think that will be very clearly. The N also, keep yourself within the same area to be sure that you're associating it with the thing. Because of it's in the green zone, it is already going beyond the steadiness of a form. So you're going to say like, okay, this is part of that form and that is part of another form. It is also breaching the physicality association there, that you say, okay, I have differences, I have changes, I have things that are changing, that things that I notice that they have, they are unrelated at some points as well. That's already the green level, where you try to make distinctions that no longer hangs together so much as, for instance, on the lowest level in space. So basically, N is a distinctive focus that you can take out as a content, a separate content. The T takes out differences, but more differences of that. We see differences, that there is a difference in the form, we see a difference in the function, we see a difference in sometimes even in the direction of the lines of the forms themselves, but it's always within that steady focus. I hope that was clear level already between these two letters. So which ones, where shall I use the letter T, where shall I use the letter N? Even without the helping lines, it should already be clear which is the T and which is the N. So let's now go and describe print. But before I do that, I will add the extra puzzle pieces as well. So N on the first level of the green zone, which is about timing, about changes. So I use arrows for it. The arrows are used for it, but I keep my focus on the first level, on space. So I start from space, I start from the spatial focus, and there I take out what I use, and I use it to start from. I still use it to start from space. I use this separate space that I take out. That's the way how you have to think with N. T is just about these positions. The positions remain within that space. They don't notice things that are much more different than, for instance, a function or a certain distinction. Not to take out, but just to separate it enough to say, okay, I see differences there, and not much more than that. So let's go now to print. So the P is that breaking out of the physical area to push it into a direction that pushes you to a new platform, a platform that already takes it out towards a different context, but it has like it shows like a platform that is coming out. That is a P. The R will connect or find connections within that area. The E will insert itself into a place where it says, okay, here is something going on in this direction, vertical, in which N rises up again from the platform, from the original platform, this area in between P, R, I, and then of course with N, there where something is going to be taken out as a separate form. The separate form, it has certain distinctions in that, within that area is that print. I can also use it as with a little bit more focus, that you also add even more physicality to it with that imprint. Print then in that way. If I resume it, you can resume all the directions that you have there, and you have that print, which is that platform that you can take out of a certain area, and in which the imprint again prints in again something within that platform. You can it's almost like a doubling idea of that focus that leaves, of course, an imprint there. You can understand it from the forms that I showed you. I hope that my explanations were clear enough. If not, just tell me. I can always redo that and it may be a little bit better. The educational idea of explaining the things well is also important, and I'm not sure if I'm good enough in that. But anyhow, I hope this was also a video that could make certain combinations of letters more clear. And I had this example of print and imprint to combine it with already the previous idea of prr, with now the nt in the end. I could have also many more examples with N and T. If you really want that, request it and I will make them available and have all the variations with the combinations of the letters N with T and all the vocals and all the vocal variations that you have with this combination. Thanks again for watching. Bye.